Hello everybody and welcome to the TVP channel for another reaction video. This has been a request and an interesting one actually. And that is looking at Duhan van der Merwe. A very controversial player, isn't he? And a player that I think it's far too much criticism really in terms of his ability and his try scoring record. And the problem is any player that goes overseas, there's like almost like a bit of taste in a lot of the South African sort of mouths in terms of we just assume, oh, well, he wouldn't have made it here, or he wasn't the one that got away. And I always think it's a very simplistic way of looking at it. And this was obviously brought to the fore a lot when he came down for the British and Irish Lions in terms of him playing against us for the British and Irish Lions as a player who grew up and played SC 20s and the likes. Now, first of all, I've always been someone who I really don't care about the whole changing nationality and the likes of that. It's 2020, well, not 2025, but it's the 21st century, and the world is not a small place anymore. And people will qualify for different nations. People have got lots of different heritage and the likes of that, and people move. And in the world of sport, I think at the end of the day, it's a professional era, and I've got no issue with people who go and they assimilate themselves to a new culture. They go live in a new country. They embrace it and they form part of it and they go on to represent their country. Why can't you go on to represent an adopted country? I've never had an issue with it whatsoever. The big question that people ask is he one that got away from the Boks? Do the Boks really miss not having him? A lot of people saying that he would never make a Boks squad. So he's an interesting character. Now, thought we just have a look at some of his highlights here. And in terms of whether he would have made the Boks. Let's first of all let's talk. I mean, his record speaks for himself. He's at this stage, the way he's going, he'll probably end up as when he finishes, he'll be the record as try scorer for Scotland. And I'm pretty impressed. I mean, he's got 31 tries in I think it's like 45 games. His try scoring record is absolutely insane for Scotland. It is 30 tries in 45 matches. He's averaging 0.7 tries a match. That's incredible. You think of Brian Abana with 67 tries, he had over 100 games. If Duhan van der Merwe, for example, plays another 45 and then another sort of maybe 50, 60 games, he'll probably get more tries than what Brian Abana has. And the big criticism people have got against him is who he scores his tries against, which I think is a bit harsh, because when you look at his tries, he's scored against a lot of people. The only problem is he's blanked against the Springboks and he's blanked against the All Blacks. Two big teams that he needs to try and find a way. The big thing I think we forget is how young he still is. I mean, he's 29 years old, so I'm not saying he's young, but he's got another 3-4 years left to him, and his numbers are insane. But let's have a look in terms of deciding whether, this tries. First of all, he owns England. He absolutely owns England. I want to actually go look at it, and he's got one, two. I'm trying to how all the tries he's got against. It's silly the amount of tries he's and how he just sort of rocks up and scores tries for fun against England. He's really, he's a proper player, and always seems to pick up when it is against England. So, this try is nothing short of remarkable. To start with that one, any player around the world scores a try like that, and you take notice. And I think he's a player who's had to really work on his game. He wasn't. He was let by the Bulls. He had to go and sort of reinvent himself, and is now playing for the British Lions up against the Sharks. I think the main thing about him is two things: it's pace and his power. He's a proper finisher, and a lot of the tries he scores, there's a lot of work to do. He's not just a people. I think sometimes people give him a very a bad rep by saying that he's just finishing easy tries. He's really not. He scored some absolute stunners. And what I think always we forget is that in the pace of power is how deft he is with his feet. He's actually a really good stepper out wide. He's got good awareness as well. And if nothing else, he's bloody fast. Like, seriously fast. He has got wheels. So I think, in terms of, is he one that got away from the Boks? Well, have the Boks missed not having him? Probably not. We've had Kirkley Aronson recently, Chesn Colby. We've had, Makazole Mapimpu. We've had some phenomenal wings over the years. Spoon Corsi, Apua Dianti. We've had some sensational wings. So have we missed not having him? Probably not. I don't think we've ever sort of at one stage gone, we just don't have a wing like him. We would really love to have him in the team because we don't have wings. But I don't think that equates to him not being a player that would have played for the Boks. I personally think he would have played for the Boks if he was playing the rugby he was now for a South African side, he'd be playing for the Springboks. The big criticism people have against him is his defense. Now, again, I think that's something that if he was playing his rugby in South Africa, I think that Rassie Erasmus would have been very upfront with him, for example, and said, right, this is the efficiency, this is why you got. And I think that's something that you can teach. Cheslin Colby's defense, for example, really came a long way from his Stormers days. And, it's such an important thing. I mean, always gets over the advantage line, doesn't he? So I think that any deficiencies in his game, he would have been able to work out. And I think in the current block environment, by all sort of means, again, the pace on him is quite remarkable. It really is. So yeah, I think it's too simplistic to say that he would never make the Boks. I think he would have. I think there were times, would he have made? Would he? Is he better than Cheslin Colby, for example, or a Maxwell Mapimpi? Maybe not. But I think he would make the side. I think he would have been able to turn him into an even better player if he had made the side during sort of that Jacques Nyamba, Rassie Erasmus era. And he's had good games against us. He hasn't scored against us, but that's not to say he's played badly when he played against the Boks. He's put in some really big performances. I don't think that British and Irish Lions tour was really designed, this one over here. The actual test games themselves. I don't think he was really in a position to. I mean, throw it back. That's my while playing for the Sharks, by the way. I don't think he was really in a system that really sort of worked towards his strengths, the way Warren Gatton played. But deserved in that British and Irish Lions spot, I think. And they try to sort of go with a bigger player to try and compete with the physicality of the Boks, and it almost worked, to be fair, from the overall game plan. But once again, scoring tries against England for fun. Steps back inside. Cheers, off you go. I mean, even over there, it's you should never be scoring from there. Ever. Ever. I mean, you look when he gets his ball, for example, and the amount of players. I mean, first of all, inside, push off one, burst through two, managed to get onto the floor and roll and find ground. It's remarkable. It is really, some of the tries. I tell you what, he does not score a boring try. He really doesn't. He is incredibly physical, and again, I think he gets underrated in terms of his game awareness and the angles he runs, and then just the raw power. I mean, you see photos of him when he's at school, and it's silly. It's silly how big he is. But it's also, again, that's more than just power. It's the pace as well. I think he's quite deceptively fast. I think maybe I think people still haven't quite caught on for just how fast he really is, and good finishes like that, regardless of who you're playing against, to be able to keep your feet in the air like that and be able to go put a finish like, I mean, that's world class. I mean, anybody that can finish a try like that is properly talented. I would love to see him back playing in South Africa and see what he would have been like. I would have loved to see him at a Bulls or at a Lions and see sort of where he would sort of measure up against the current South African wings. When you think of the likes of Edwin van der Merwe, for example, coming through, a Kirkley Arendse. I'd love to see how he would have stacked up against him. So the main thing I think is that from South African perspective, I think we should be proud of him. I think we should watch these highlights and be able to say, yeah, that's the South African. Yes, he's playing for Scotland, but the dual citizenship is a thing. But I think we should be really proud of what he's produced in the rugby player of Duhan van der Merwe. I think we should be worried in terms of how we couldn't have gotten him there to a certain degree, but it was a long time ago. And at the Bulls, I think at a time where the Bulls structures weren't as particularly good as they were now in terms of nurturing talent. But I think that we can look at him and be really proud. And I don't understand why more people don't have that attitude. I don't understand why more people don't look at him and go, you know what? I mean, when I see Pierce School and putting in big shifts for Scotland, I love it. I love watching the Saffers abroad and them doing well and stuff like that. When they play well against us, maybe it's a bit cuck. But in general, I love watching our former South African players doing well against other opposition and representing it. Because I think it just holds the name high. We've got such a proud rugby history, and I think seeing things like that, we should be really, really proud of all the exports we have and what they're doing. I don't understand where the animosity really comes from. So I don't think, for example, he's a stat pattern. I think that's really simplistic. I'm looking at his trial list over here, and I think he only made his debut in 2020. But he scored against Ireland, he scored against England, he scored against France multiple times, he scored against Argentina a few times. Scored against Wales, scored against Fiji, scored against Australia. Who in that sort of top 10 hasn't he really scored against? Besides obviously New Zealand and South Africa. And that's maybe the big problem. But I think also we've got to be very realistic. It's not just a case of he hasn't scored against New Zealand and South Africa, but Scotland struggled against those teams. Scotland haven't beaten those teams consistently, for example. So when you've got a side who's being pushed backwards and being dominated, for example, you're never going to be able to get something like Duhan van der Merwe into the game. Usually the wings are the first to suffer. He's electrifyingly fast, by the way. The wings are always the first ones that suffer when it comes to playing against sort of top sides because they don't get the ball a lot. They don't get a lot of attacking opportunity. So I think that's far too simplistic to say because he hasn't scored against New Zealand and South Africa that he's just not good enough. Because I think he's, I mean, he's built. I mean, he's an absolute brick house of a player. I mean, it's just, no, he's very good. He's very good. I think far from a fraud. I think he is a genuine superstar. I would expect to see him in the British and Irish Lions squad again this year, and I hope he has a really good tour if he does go, because I think that he's had to really take the road less traveled by. He failed a medical at Montpellier, and I think that he's really had to go the hard way. And in where he plays, you can see a desperation almost, and that he really wants to make it. He thought about quitting when he was at school. His brother missed to carry on. He got let go by the Bulls. Things didn't work out by Montpellier. Things almost didn't work out at Edinburgh when he failed that medical. So he's really someone who's had to continuously try and fight for his place, fight for his. I mean, that is stupidly far. I mean, that's with the ball as well. It's just, no, he's impressive. So, yeah, I mean, look, what do you guys think? I'm very curious. I mean, you watch these highlights, and I just don't see why people can hate him and why people can't rate him either. I mean, that's against the very current Irish side, and he's just rounded. Yeah, a try like that is special. So, yes, maybe I think he might have his deficiency in his game, but I do think that's something we could have sorted out. But overall, I think he's a fun player to watch, and I really think that he's genuinely world class and in amongst some of the best wings in the world. I think that's quite simple. I have no issue putting him in that category. I have no issue putting him in the top 5, 6 best wings in the world. I think he is. His stats, you can't almost not say he is with the strike rate he's got. You can't be sitting there with 30 international tries in 44 matches, including 2 test matches, I think, or 3 test matches for the British and Irish Lions. 4 test matches actually with a try in them. And not go and say, no, he deserves, he can be in the category. I don't think he can. So, you know what, Duhan, long may you can continue to score the tries. I really hope he goes on to go and score, 50-odd tries. I mean, if you can get to that kind of number, it'll be really, really cool. And he continues to beat England and often be the reason that Scotland beat England, which is always a big plus in my book. So that's what I think. I think be proud of him. I like him. I think he would have made the Boks. I don't necessarily think we missed him, but I think he would have been around the squad. I think he could have been a good asset. I think we could have really made him work. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you guys all next time.